Okay, good.
Very good evening. My apologies. It's 7:05. We're a few minutes late. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Bedminster Township Committee for June the 2nd, 2018. Our entire committee is with us here tonight. We have some folks in the audience. We thank you for coming out on a very warm evening. And I'll let Ms. Sullivan get her seat back and she can give us the Open Public Meetings Act
Open Public
statement.
Meetings Act. Yes, adequate notice of this meeting in the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Burnsville News in Whippany, to all subscribers, and also posted here at the Municipal Building as of January 8th, 2018.
I invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have two sets of meeting minutes to review and approve. The June 18th regular agenda session and the June 18th executive session. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion. Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits
That would
and,
be Mr. Hickey abstaining.
Exactly, yep.
permits and raffles. We have three. I'll hit the first two first. We have an off-premise 50-50 cash raffle for Autism New Jersey, Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 811 Rattlesnake Bridge Road. That is September the 4th, 2018, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. We also have a social affair permit for Mainstream. That's at the Trump National Golf Club, 900 Lamington Road, October 13th, 2018, 6:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And we also have a special use permit. This is a little unusual for what we see. Garden State Ceiling for the Hills Shopping Center, 500 Hills Drive, 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. and overnight. There's a date. It is a date yet to be determined for a 2-inch mill and paving of the parking lots. So, is there anyone here to speak on that? Please, sir, come forward. Get your name. Step up to that podium there with a microphone.
Give these out to me.
Yes.
Do you need one to reference?
If you, yeah. Thank you.
For the audio portion of the recording, just who you are and who you represent.
My name is Dark Kona. I'm the project manager for Garden State Ceiling based out of Tinton Falls, New Jersey. And also with me is the property manager, Alicia Edel, and she represents Colliers, and they are the owners of the property. The property is 500 Hills Drive. It's the one with the King's Shopping Center right on the corner of 206 there. If you look at the document that I have created, try to keep it as simple as possible. The first page gives you a little bit of a close-up of the shopping center and what we're planning on doing. It is a pretty decent size project. It's about 11,000 square yards. The shopping center has 3 accesses, 2 of them on Hills Drive. One of them comes off of 206, and that one coming off of 206 is right turn only, and takes you back towards the light and heading northbound. Now, what we are planning on doing is paving all the drive lanes at the front parking lots. And if you see the first page, or the second page rather, phase 1, phase 2, phase 1 is in green, phase 2 is in orange, and you see right in the middle is the middle entrance and exit. What we are proposing to do is to do this mill and pave work at night, starting in the evening around 7 p.m. We want to minimize the amount of inconvenience to the shoppers. It is a heavily trafficked shopping center, especially during the day, with the number of offices that are there. And in the course of the day, in the evening, you'll have your local shoppers, residential shoppers. But we want to start at 7 p.m. and we do want to start as close to the residential areas as possible, as early as possible, so that we can get away from those residential areas when we get into the night. We are in the front. We are not doing any work in the back of the shopping center. The shopping center's biggest tenant is King's, and King's will have trucks, delivery trucks that do come in as early. I think the bright trucks come in as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, and those vehicles are very close to your townhouses or residences on the backside. The loudest part of the operation is the milling machine. That will run from 7 p.m. and most likely we should finish it probably by 10 o'clock. What we're proposing to do is start, like I said, towards the residences and work our ways back out towards Hills Drive, that center drive lane. When we pave, we're going to start in the center drive lane and work our way back out towards the residences. So when we get back towards the residences in the morning, around 6 o'clock in the morning, that's pretty much the time when a lot of people would start to get up. So if we're not trying to keep ourselves near the residences between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m., we're trying to stay away from those residences. The other consideration is if we do this work at night, we get in and out a lot faster. We're not trying to contend with the number of people trying to get in and get out. We're literally shutting down half the shopping center at a time. Even though we're not doing all of the parking areas, we are still shutting down half the drive lanes so that access to those other parking spots is cut off. So we want to minimize the inconvenience to the shoppers. We also want to minimize the downtime or the inconvenience to the businesses. It does impact them pretty significantly. Also, when you consider Hills Drive, it's pretty much one lane each direction. It has a median. It gives us very little scope for traffic control. Now, we are planning on, once we get approval, I'll take this to the police department and go with their recommendation as far as what they want to see as far as traffic control. But usually traffic control at night is maybe 1 or 2 officers that are there to accommodate people moving in, people moving out, as well as our trucks moving in and out, taking millings out, breaking asphalt in. But we'll coordinate that with the police department. It's a lot easier to do at night when you have one lane with a median. We don't have too much of an area to work with if we needed to jockey during the day. The other, safety is another consideration. And finally, the faster we get this done, the more cost effective it is for our client. It would be several $1,000s more if we had to do this during the day and have to be broken up into more phases.
What are your protocols for, the rogue car that decides that they're going to leave it there overnight and, they're off to New York City or what have you? How do you alert the public that this is going to be going down and that they can't park there overnight?
Well, the property management will actually notify the tenants, and the tenants have their own way of notifying a lot of their own customers, but most of the tenants will put signage up on their front doors to let their tenants know, but we can easily put up signs in the shopping center with actual dates of when this work is happening and what time it's going to be happening to let them know. Now, any vehicles that are actually parked in those areas, we can have them moved. We're not going to have them towed off-site. We'll have them towed on-site to a point where they can drive off when they come back. If somebody's in the city and they're getting back late at night and their car happens to be stuck over there, we'll move it from one side to the other side to make sure. And it wouldn't be at their cost, it'd be at our cost.
How many, and this might be from Collier, you're starting at 7 p.m., given a Wednesday night or a Friday night, how many of your stores are still open? In other words, would still be operating from 7 to 10? Because I think King's closes at what, 10 or 9?
10 o'clock.
Pretty much of them operate to 9:30.
For when you're doing phase 2, you have, the very eastern edge, the one by Peapack Gladstone Bank, that's an in and an out. And the one on the western side is just in. There was out, I guess, I'm sorry. So when you're doing phase 2 and the phase 1 area is still open, you'll be able to get in, but the only way you'll get out is via the 206?
Right, so when we're doing phase 2, that's a great question. So we start milling on the Peapack, on the bank side. So we'll start milling on that side. We'll finish milling at the main entrance, or at the main exit rather. and then we'll start paving from that side. The reason we want to pave that middle section as quick as possible is we want to be able to open it up as quick as possible.
Yeah, and again, I'm not here to tell you how to do it. It certainly wouldn't be a condition for me, but yeah, it would seem that those 2 lanes in the very middle, once you got them done, then anything on the outside in phase 1 and phase 2 becomes pretty easy to
does.
deal with. But I know you guys do this all the time, probably thought about it, so.
Like I said, we'll coordinate the logistics of how we're doing it
Mhm.
with the traffic department
Mhm.
to make sure that they're on board to minimize, and whatever their advice is as far as their experience on traffic times, we'll work around that as best as possible.
Presumably there'd be no, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Presumably no trucks idling in the back behind the King's building, no deliveries of materials or anything like that.
There'll be no activity in the back.
Great, thank you. Thank you for respecting the sleep of our residents.
Do we know, or is it, well, of course, weather is phase 1 and phase 2 going to be, could they be at wildly different times? Could one be in early August and then phase 2 comes in September? Or do you expect these to be on consecutive nights, weather permitting?
Yes, we expect them to be on consecutive nights.
Okay.
Mr. Khan, the bumps that are being replaced are the same speed bumps that are presently there, correct? You're not making new?
Yes, I had a conversation with property management, and I told them that speed bumps per se are not DOT compliant, NJDOT compliant. However, it is a private property, and if the township is fine with the speed bumps being there, it's fine by us. I know King's requested it, or it came to be just because people were going a little too fast with a lot of people coming back out. But we're planning on putting them right back exactly the way they are.
Yeah, because the way it's built, there are people that walk out and the pillars are there.
Yeah, those columns go
And
right to the curb,
so you-
which is a poor design to begin with, but
So you basically really just kind of have
It
to
is
stand
what it
still
is.
when you're driving there, because people do walk out because they don't realize that cars are going by. So I
Right.
think the speed bumps are necessary.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we're not reinventing the wheel. Whatever you see there is exactly the way it's going to be.
My only question is on the removal of the millings, you're doing a direct loadout of the millings? A direct loadout, so
Yeah.
so nothing is being stored?
No, nothing being stored.
Okay.
We'll probably have about 5 or 6 trucks. Empty truck pulls up, loaded with millings,
Out it
trucks
goes.
drive out, and when they drive out, they dump the millings at the plant. We're paying to have the plant open at night, and when they come back from the plant, they come with loaded asphalt, so we'll have the paving box there. So as soon as the milling operation moves forward, the paving operation will move right behind it.
Larry, did you notice the 206 repavement over the past 2 weeks?
Yes,
No, did you notice it noise, or did you notice just, oh my God, it was done?
it was done. It was just
Yeah,
one
I thought
day
it was
coming out
amazing.
there, just coming back on Lemington and
Yeah, I saw
206.
him, I
and it
saw him
was-
set up in the evening, and then drove by the next morning, and it was paved and painted and ready to go. I don't know, maybe that was you guys, but I
Well,
thought they did an amazing job.
Also, the logistics, I think that Mr. Mr. Kona is running through is not dissimilar from what we saw down at the Fresh Market when they did the paving and they did the repairs there. It was a similar nighttime schedule. I guess one question we didn't talk about is lighting. The lighting for the work, I presume, angled away from the residential.
Yeah, it is.
That's-
Everything we're doing is going to meet DOT standards and specifications, so we do have to have lights there for OSHA compliance.
Right.
But everything's in the front, everything's going to be pointed away from the residents, nothing's going to be pointed toward the residents. And the only time we really actually come anywhere really near them is the bank over there. That's the closest where we actually come with them.
Chief, any issues that you see?
No, I don't. I think it'd be safer to do it at night, to be honest with you, with the amount of traffic in and out of that facility. Just as long as the traffic plan is managed appropriately. The only concern I would have is during phase 2, I guess you would, when everybody has to exit on the 202, 206. The fear I have would be people trying to make a left behind the Golden Palace. No, I have to try and make a left
Yeah.
rather than, because you're not going to be able to naturally get up to 202. You're going to have to go all the way to Hills Drive, or you're going to have to come back around through the hills to
Yeah.
get south. So,
John, Judy, any?
The only concern that the fire official may have is the use of the fire hydrants for water. he's got to get a meter from the New Jersey American Water Company for that.
On any job that we do, we understand that there is that requirement for first responders, and it is what it is. And if there's any fire trucks that usually drive right on it,
That's not what I'm saying. The water that you're using for your operation, you need to get a meter from the New Jersey American Water to take water from hydrants.
Okay,
That's what's required.
you got it, no problem.
Not a usual occurrence for testimony for a special use permit. There's a couple people out in the audience. Does anybody have any questions about this? All right. Any other comments or questions? Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
I'm just gonna say all in favor.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Which does bring us to public comments. Twice every meeting, we open up that microphone to any member of the public that wishes to comment on anything for the evening. Please come up, step before the microphone, state your name and your street address for the audio recording.
Good evening. Doug Brown, 1851 Black River Road. So I've come to request a solution to a speeding problem on Black River Road. I filed a police report probably back in February or March. Spoke with Sergeant Bernardo several times. A monitoring station was placed literally on the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign that's in front of my house. And that was there for a couple, 3 weeks. Sergeant Bernardo called me back, said you absolutely have a speeding problem there. He gave me the stats. It had taken them a while to process the data. He said that patrols would be increased, and said, well, just passing through patrols versus parked cruisers. So no, parked cruiser. So okay, and obviously the rush hours is the worst time for the speeding. 4 weeks went by, I did not see a single station cruiser. I called back, left a message, Sergeant Bernardo called me back, said, well, no, they have increased their patrols, but they're parking at the church. Well, the church is all the way down a mile down in the village. That's not where the issue is. The issue is down at my end. I'm the last house in Pottersville. And so it's 25 miles an hour all the way through the village to right in front of the Allports home, which is south of me. The cars just come, you can hear them winding up as they're leaving the village and coming around the S turn in front of my house. And they're just ripping it by the time they get in front of my house. The monitoring station was actually set up to catch the northbound traffic, which purely anecdotal evidence from me just observing, yeah, absolutely get the speeders coming north, but it's southbound out of the village, which is really where they get wound up. Regardless, we said, well, okay, we'll see what we can do. Literally that evening, there was a cruiser that came in, parked just past my house, but he was there for 20 minutes. I know because I took the dog out, timed it, and was gone. It's a dangerous situation. I mean, my house, old farmhouse, sits right on the road. I'm cutting the grass, walking the dog. Bikers obviously use Black River. It's a major biking path.
Are you in the old Casella house?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, now we all know.
Yeah.
We all know. All right. Yeah, you were right on the road.
And it's that S turn.
Yeah.
And look, it's a fun road, sure. I've seen motorcycles come through doing the
lean.
lines bend with the knee striking. I mean, it's a fun road.
What was it clocked at?
The highest was 51, many in the 40s. The average was somewhere high 30s, but that also takes into account.
It was going the other way, right?
Well, that's right. That's catching the northbound traffic, not the southbound traffic. And again, purely anecdotal to me, the worst is southbound traffic. Plus, that average takes into account folks that are going through doing 25, balancing it out. So, what can be done? more cruiser presence, but what I'd like to request are installation of speed humps. Not bumps, but the actual humps that the snowplows could deal with. That's it.
I will say that that probably one of the number one complaint in the years I've seen has been not necessarily Black River Road, but speeding in general. Hills Drive, we've had lots of issues on Hills Drive. Southfield Drive, just upstream from you. People are concerned about the cut through.
Airport Road.
Airport Road, yeah. So
Oh, my goodness.
what you're saying is not trivial, and it's not unusual, and it's, I think it continues to be a struggle for the police department. We had the signs that show your speed are a new tool, which we've had the much bigger sign. I think that's a different one. We had the one with the big generator on it years ago, or am I thinking about something different? Or was that something we got from the county?
Oh, correct. Before we had our little more portable signs, we have a traffic trail from the county.
I mean, is that something we can utilize? I mean, there's a ton of traffic calming techniques before you get to the bump or the hump. That might be better, but
And I think we're going to have to go back up there and see where we can try and deploy the sign southbound. And we can hang it in a stealth mode so it's just a black box to get a better feel for what's coming southbound.
Well, it sounds like we already have that
Yeah.
information, as Mr. Brown was saying. And it sounds like Sergeant Bernardo confirmed it, that there's speeding issue there. So I don't know that more data reinforcing the speeding problem is appropriate, I think. And by the way, I would also say with the enforcement, putting those
the speed reading.
The speed reading sign.
The speed reading sign would be.
is nice, but it's a temporary fix. Sounds like we're in need of a more permanent solution, which we now look at John.
Well, but it also sounds like that, again, maybe more presence, I think would help as well. I mean, those are, we always talk about having a little increased presence, and it's hard for us, the five of us, to get a really good feel as to how that presence works.
It has to be an elongated period of time because
Right.
if
Right.
you start talking
Because, I
and
mean,
saying you can't speed in that area
Well,
because there's
you get-
always a police officer
You hand
there.
out a
That's-
couple tickets.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a long-term fix of the speeding problem.
Well, there are some roads around here that everybody knows you best not speed through. Old Route 28 going through Branchburg.
I mean,
That little section
Oh,
where the
yeah.
old general store used to be. Boy, it says 25 between the bridge and Burnt Mill. Don't do 26 going through there.
I mean, it's a place to start
Mhm.
to get it a little bit more safe.
But what are the options? What are the physical?
Speed tables in there, if you choose to do so. Problem is, where do you put them that's going to be effective enough? You can't put them on a curve. You have to put them someplace where they're visible. You have to put some signs up to say speed hump ahead.
Well, does it have to be a speed hump? What else is out there? The rumble
I don't know if
strips?
That's not going to, I don't think that's going to solve the issue. I mean, those rumble strips are just going to,
And I remember talking to Paul Ferraro a couple of years ago about Southfield Drive, and we never got to this point, but one of the things that he had suggested, but we didn't kind of follow through on, for whatever reason, was he was talking about putting big flower pots. And when I say flower pots, the type you see in the city for anti-terrorism. And the goal was you get halfway down Southfield Drive, and you couldn't just go through, you'd have to slow down and kind of meander around it. I don't know that you can't do that on a road with a double yellow line on it. So
that there's not enough width.
that's not and even that, so I don't know that there is a readily accessible physical barrier that,
The speed tables, I mean, we've got them on, by the turtle tunnels. But
Do you have any turtles in your neighborhood?
Yeah,
Go there. Get one, we're gonna get one with a Petco sticker on it.
So, I mean, if you choose a location where that is, and it could be a neighbor's house that's, you know, adjacent to his, are they gonna complain because they always get that all night long, all day long? And then you have something that's loose, so it's never a good solution. There's no good solution out there.
well, there- just throwing it out there, there is space between myself and Bill, and the next houses that's kind of, no one's immediately near, and there's visibility to it as soon as you get past Bill's house.
But human nature is that once I get over that speed hump, I'm taking off. So it's,
Feel free to put one in front of my house as well.
unfortunately, you're on that curve.
Well, you know what, I think we should hear from Paul. We should hear from the township engineer on this issue. It's different than Southfield, it's a different street. It's a
Oh, yeah.
different problem, and may have a different solution.
Okay.
And we're not,
You know, potential
Yeah.
solutions from
we're
the
not traffic
engineer.
experts, so.
We
we're
can
not.
ask.
We wanna
should
help.
ask.
In the meantime, my barn driveway is a perfect spot for a cruise.
Sounds like an invitation, chief.
So,
Sounds like an invitation.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
No, welcome to town.
Any other member of the public wish to comment? Seeing none, we'll move to our subcommittee reports. We'll start with Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. We've got a couple things to report on. Had a JVH meeting last week. Went well. We, this past Saturday, we were out setting up the Field of Honor, the flags. You see that's up on the field now, just to the north on 206. And you can continue to buy flags throughout the weekend. On July 8th, there's a nice picnic that will commemorate the event. Flyers are here at Town Hall. There's some in the back here as well. JVH put on a movie night. It wasn't fairly light attendance, so we're keep trying to do that. That was a good idea, but I think maybe just getting the word out a little bit. I don't think people really knew about it. And then just by happenstance, we know that the trailers out there, they have the permit to park it, I believe, through August of this year, but there's been some chit chat on some social media, and Colin took some questions about it. Folks are getting a little bit antsy about the trailer.
Well, didn't we get a letter from Robin Ray today?
Yep. And
As a result, yeah.
that's what I was just going to report.
Nope,
That it will
sorry.
be moved either on the 4th or the 7th. And Robin's going to be working with John about getting a location that's sort of out of sight, out of mind. And they'll move that trailer.
Do we have an idea what the candidates are for that location?
So I think that the best area that's not visible to the general public out on the highway is going to be between the hike and bike trail and where the drive that goes into the north field. We can park it right along that wood line right there so that the back of the trailer is actually facing the hike and bike. I think that's the best location. It's out of the way. They can hook up to it and do whatever they need to in the future.
So, look, the end game here is to get what's in the trailer out of the trailer and get it going vertical, right? So, they're still waiting for the funding from the county. There's about $1.9 million requested by folks and about 1.3 available, so it's $3 requested for every 2 essentially. And Robin just handed me today actually an update from Mr. D'Amico indicating that they're going to be meeting second week of July, and then it goes to a commission for review and recommendation to the freeholders, so hopefully we'll get some feedback back at the end of July as to where the funding's going for that, but keep your fingers crossed for that. Robin's continuing to work on put together grant applications to the state and the county level, so hopefully the first the historic preservation grant comes through and it's big number to start the process, and then things will fall in line behind it and start going vertical with the barn. Last week, I also had an opportunity to sit down with the Hills North folks. Seems to be, everything's pretty much in order. There were a couple things that were raised with respect to Robertson Drive. Mr. Brown was just saying, you know, speeding, first and foremost, there's still reports about speeding on that street. Chief, if there's anything we can do, if there's an area to set up shop, I don't know, but if we can, maybe get a cruiser there for a little bit in the rush hour. Both evening and morning rushes. I understand that the cars are whipping through there. There's also the crosswalk that's right in front of the daycare center there, maybe a little bit more towards the King. The request from the association was whether we could do something to spruce that up, not from a aesthetic perspective, but from a notice perspective, that they say that it's not, no one's respecting the crosswalk, and people are on it before they realize it's a crosswalk and they're just going through it. I went with John this morning, actually. We took a drive through there. It's marked with 4 signs, okay, so I think it's marked pretty well. The request is whether we can paint it. If we can't paint it, can we stick something in the middle of the road, like you see, you know, brake for traffic or brake for pedestrians? That's the request. I don't know whether it's you know, something you want to do or not, but that seemed pretty harmless, and sticking that out there is just on a base, and it sort of, to me as a driver, I know that that's the first thing I see is what's in my field of vision radar. Oh, it's something telling me to brake for the folks that want to cross. So, and then with respect to crosswalks, there's, you got to know the area because I didn't know it until I went out with John again, but there's an area just past Wentworth that as you're heading towards Kings on the left, the sidewalk just stops.
Yeah.
And they were thinking, and they were asking whether we could get another crosswalk there to cross over to pick up the sidewalk on the other side. And I understand that Paul's looked at in the, you know, what that would entail, and, you know, back of the napkin type thing. I mean, it's, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 a side. So if that's something that they really want and it's something that's doable, my suggestion would be, you know, to put it back to a special assessment or something back to that section of the Hills, whether they really want it. I don't know whether everybody should have to pay for that, since there already is a crosswalk just a couple yards down the street, but that's the request that's come in, so we're looking at the cost for that too, but it seems to me like that would be something that should be a special assessment to that particular area, but that's just me. I did ask them about the engine braking issue, because that came up last meeting, as you recall, and I got feedback back from some of the folks on the board that yes, that's been an issue for years, but they sort of had just given up on it and hadn't really voiced it. So just so we know, as we continue that discussion, that it is beyond just that 206 corridor we talked about, it's also being experienced in the Hills too. At the farmer's market, Larry, you and I were approached by a woman that lives over near Old Dutch, and where Old Dutch sort of comes down to Peapack Road, about the stream, Peapack Brook.
Right.
John and I, on our field trip today, we took a spin by there too, and it's an interesting area because you've got the Peapack Brook coming down sort of behind the ski hill area, and then you also have the brook coming sort of from the north underneath 206, underneath Peapack Road, and they come together there, and then they sort of go downstream. You do have a bunch of trees that are down, and it's affecting some of the washout. To John's point, he notified the county and said, look, your road, and particularly your guardrail, is about a foot off from being eaten up by this erosion. You need to do something. So as we explained to the woman at the market, you know, I think it may just be something that no one's really got their eye on it, and now that we know about it, we've sounded the horn, but John said he has notified the county in the past. That my recommendation was just to stay on it and let them know that's what's going on, because I think once you start agreeing to clean up parts of certain streams, you're opening up Pandora's box to a whole bunch of streams in the township, and if it's something that's within the township's purview, they should, I mean the county's purview, they should be doing it. I think that's it.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Keeping busy.
But
Well, that's quick action. You and John, because that conversation was Saturday late morning, and you guys out there this morning looking at already looking at the brook and with some ideas.
We had a previous date set for
So we
something
had a
else.
captive audience, so we decided we'd kill two birds with one stone. But thanks, John, for that, and it was very helpful to go out.
On the Robertson Road issue, we did put that sign that we spoke of this morning, that's down there now currently.
Great.
So that's now in the middle of the road.
This thing?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's-
good.
So it's a portable sign that can be moved if we need to. On the Peapack Brook discussion, I still think maybe Paul Farrar should probably write to the county engineering and see what their response is gonna be.
Would also help if we also reached out to the county, either through the freeholders or to the planning office. I mean, I'm regular contact with planning on some of the land use issues and some of the other grant and other incentive programs we're looking at. And maybe there's an opportunity to get
It's
three or four pronged approach with the county on dealing with that.
The way that bridge is designed and the way that brook is at this point in time, I mean, it's directly shooting right towards the embankment, which is at the Peapack Road embankment, which is now washing out the trees. That's what's causing the issue.
So you've got siltation, and in your mind, the siltation is being aggravated by the trees that are going down? If the trees were cleared, would that
No,
eliminate the situation, or?
There's siltation north of the bridge that's allowing the flow to go
Right, and then it shoots back left hard.
Right.
So it diverts it right, but it wants to go left, so by diverting it right, it's coming back left extra hard, right into the area
So it's
where
just
it's chewing it up.
Just
yeah.
scouring it out?
It's scouring the Peapack Road issue, and I mean, that's gonna be their concern pretty soon, so.
It's gonna wash out the guardrail.
If you put stone, are you just going to silt it up more?
It's just, you need a substantial amount of stone to redirect that water to go around that. But the silt that's along her property, I believe, which is the Luz property that I know of, that's where it really needs to be maneuvered. It needs to be reconfigured.
The woman we spoke to actually lives on, I think she's on Deer Haven. She was talking about the issue generally. I think she was two up from the base of the hill on the Deer Haven
So
side.
is her concern that it's behind her property?
No, I think her concern was washout of the stream and flooding issues along that backside.
And there's a bridge, I mean,
Right, and the
it
bridge,
seems
of
like
course.
it looks like an expensive proposition if this thing were to continue to go bad. You've got all sorts of infrastructure that's there.
I'm not sure, I mean, there's 4 trees that are down in that general area, and somebody has cut them up, and the brush has been either left and washed away or removed, but the stumps are still there, so.
It might be,
Not sure.
her concern, I think, may be from that point and further downstream of the river.
Which you know as well as I do that none of us can go in the river and do anything with it.
Right.
Even though we fill out a stream.
Do a stream
inspection
cleaning permit with DEP.
program that we have each year that I send to Paul's office, we fill out requests for things and we can't do it.
Also, well, similar to the Black River on the other side of town.
Correct.
This, you've got 2 towns on either side of that brook. The county may be the best vehicle to take care of this. So let's just all
Well, plus too, I mean, I hate
put
to,
those calls in.
and I hate to think of it like my day job, but you know, if something goes bad, you want to be on record by saying, we told you
Yeah.
about this.
You've asked.
Yeah.
All right.
John, quick question for you. On the Robertson issue, didn't there used to be back in the day a speed bump there, or was it just a stop sign? And you used to be able to go
There
through
used-
Wood Duck.
There was a stop sign that was between, and I forgive me, the road that goes right across from the pond.
Yeah.
Wentworth.
Wentworth?
Or is it Wynwood?
Wynwood. There used to be a stop sign coming up and going down.
Right.
And then, so you used to be able to cross right there. That would be a perfect opportunity to put a mid-crosswalk.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think Paul's answer is going to be, is that because it's a hill coming up
Mhm.
and a curve coming around, it's another sight distance issue.
Got it.
Just like we're having the discussion about the speed bumps up in Flowers.
I will tell you, when the stop sign was there, and I still to this day break right there, it did break up the traffic there. because then you came down a hill a little more slowly because you weren't already, going at 25 miles an hour.
The Ducks Crossing sign was there, that's why you stopped.
Maybe that too. No, it was actually when you could go through Wood Duck back in the day.
So,
Yeah.
but everybody has to remember that the sidewalk that has stopped on the easterly side, the road never went through when it was developed.
Right.
The medical building owned Robertson Drive to a point, to that pump station that's right there. Then there was barriers across there, and then it was opened up, and I think that's probably why that was never completed.
That's a legacy.
Is that a land use issue? Is that a zoning enforcement? Should there have been a requirement to complete the sidewalk?
I don't think so, because when we took over the road, I'm sure that was probably vetted at some point in time. I don't know. That's a whole question, unfortunately.
All right. Colin?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I can't top you, Mr. Stevenson, after that report. Just a couple quick updates on the Lamington River project. Robert Lewis from Flint Hill Preserve contacted me today, indicated that the NRCS state office had been reviewing their contract. It was outside the purview of just a local field office in Frenchtown. They expect the final contract within a matter of days. We should be receiving some materials for attorney review thereafter. They're in the process of doing their DEP permit right now. That submission is pending. They also inquired about the property at the corner of McCann Mill Road and Black River Road, because that's where they want to take the equipment out of the river once the work has been done. So they're going to enter upstream on the Tewksbury side, have the equipment come down the river as they're doing the restoration, and then exit at that property in particular. There's a conservation easement on that property. They forwarded that to Mr. Bellardo and I today, so that will need to be reviewed as well. And then obviously, as they're putting their plans together, which are in the process of being finalized, Mr. Farrar is going to need to take a look at them as well. I know Chairman Mareski's in the audience. We both missed the Environmental Commission meeting last week. Did you want to give us an update on that?
The Environmental Commission?
Because you did review the project.
Tim Walter and I went...
Well, come up to the mic, because you'll get recorded. The audio will be recorded.
I'm Renee Mareski, Chair of Environmental Commission. Tim Walter and I joined Robert and Joe Urbani, the manager of Fiddler's Elbow, last week. And he showed us a piece of the river that Urbani had worked on and done some similar work to it. And the stream is gorgeous, it's healthy. You would never know that any work had been done. I asked him in particular about any flooding issues, because that seems to be a question that pops up every once in a while. And basically the answer is, if it's an area that's going to flood, it's going to flood if there's a laddering. The work that they're doing with putting in boulders or moving boulders around, it doesn't affect that at all. That it's a clean process. They drive in the trucks that are all, they're all clean. They've got biodegradable oils and all the mechanical stuff. They drive it in once, hide it overnight in a spot that nobody's going to see, and it's not going to do any damage. And it just looks really fabulous. So if it's anything like what they're looking to do here, it's going to be an amazing thing for the local fish, local bugs, some birds. It'll be really nice. But we were really confident that the project is going to be really good.
All right. Thank you very much for the update.
Mayor, the only other update I have is the rec committee. We have a meeting on the 17th, and we'll report out after that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jacobs?
Mr. Mayor, since our last meeting, there was no land use board meetings, and there's no land use board meeting this week. Next one is on the 12th. But we did have a Bedminster Hills Housing Corporation meeting last week, and of particular note for John is Ed Schmier should be reaching out to you regarding the ordinance and the agreement between the township and BHHC as the administrator of the affordable housing, and we discussed which programs, and we've talked about this before, which programs that are being most utilized through BHHC, and making sure that the agreement with the town reflects that. And we alerted Ed of the timing issues with the agreement with Fair Share to have that plan adopted. So Ed should be reaching out to you soon.
look forward to it.
I do have a question. I met with Sharon DeSico today, because she does have the draft of the ordinance that will be possibly introducing tonight. There's a marketing plan for that ordinance that suggests a number of groups that are not necessarily local to Somerset County. Plainfield, North Amboy, Edison, and Sharon DeSico works with Sharon Clark to disseminate the information of what's available here in Bedminster. So just Sharon's question to me was why those organizations are not maybe a Somerset County-based dissemination group. I said I didn't know, but that was part of the agreement that came from, the attorney. So it was just a question she put to me. We also worked out the marketing plan that she'll be working with Sharon Clark, and then we also offered to put a lot of the information on our own website as well, just above and beyond what's requested in the ordinance.
Okay. Good. John, is there anything out there that allows us to, that gives us the leeway for marketing that's more local?
I'm a blank slate on this issue. I haven't been reached out. I don't know anything about it. I haven't.
Hopefully, maybe sometime within the next, time
Yeah,
this
there's
is
like
introduced
listed
and we
in-
finish,
in
maybe if there's
the
another
ordinance
option.
that she's directed to communicate with, and she just
Okay.
asked me why those groups are not other local groups.
If they want to reach out before a meeting, it'll give me time to prepare and come here and answer questions instead of getting it just thrown up out of the blue.
All right. Anything else, Larry?
No, that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Stacy?
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Historic Preservation Committee meeting this past week. Just interesting, the Lumizy restaurant. There are new people, Porcello Engineering will be in there. They're actually from Tewksbury, but they have their engineering firm in Pine Brook, so they're going to move from Pine Brook to here. So they're going to
engineering office?
They're going to be doing some improvements, change of use, exterior improvements, new sign.
What are the lunch specials?
That's what I'm wondering.
I know, I enjoyed that restaurant very much. So Chairperson Pam Jeans put them through their paces and asked a lot of questions, but it looks like they'll make some nice improvements, a nice sign. So it's very interesting. They're right around the corner from us.
Yep.
So
Very good.
that's all I have for the update.
A couple things. I attended Clarence-Dillon Public Library trustee meeting. Their budget went through. As usual, Sandy's got his finger on the pulse of their budget, and they're right on target as they have in years past. They have a very exciting project coming where they're going to do a Betty Merck reading room. They're going to carve a little section out of the southeast corner where the stacks are, kind of opposite the Ann O'Brien room. So that is a project that's ongoing. That is being done with donations, so it's not out of their operating budget. Also, Ms. Santucci and I were at the Essex Horse Trials. Maybe a couple of others were too, but we were there on Saturday, and the weather smiled on the Essex Horse Trials, and it looked like a very successful year as usual. Next year, they're expecting a little more visibility, higher purses, a little even higher caliber of rider. So that is again an ongoing effort to continue to put the Somerset Hills and Bedminster specifically on the equestrian map. That is a good thing that will help hopefully improve the value and the marketability of the large horse farms in western Bedminster, because the best open space program is valuable properties out there. Mr. Jacobs and I, on the 22nd, were on Hillside Avenue as 3 groups from the NAACP came out to do their annual commemoration of the Hillside Burying Ground. And it was a nice ceremony. They were also very fortunate. There was rain clouds before and rain clouds after, but for the time they were there, the weather was really nice, and they had a nice group. It was a very moving ceremony. They were very appreciative of what the town has done. I even got a certificate from them, which was nice, and we read the passage out of the Mulek book that we did years ago when we dedicated that. So that was a very nice ceremony and a good group out for that. I have one question as we go. I also spoke to the gentleman from DOT last week, and he wasn't sure if he was going to be working today, and I don't know if anything's come of it, but please make sure Mr. Ferraro reaches out to the gentleman about our permit for the paving on
Yeah, I saw
Hillside.
that email today,
He
so we'll follow
said
up.
that he was going to make it, and he gave me a name of somebody in case that he is not able to deliver, but he promised that he would deliver. So I'm hoping that we're moving forward with that. And that's all I have. Judy, do you have an administrator's report?
A couple things. As you may remember, every 2 years, our JIF requires us to review our personnel policy and do specific trainings. There's specific training for the command staff at the police department, which the chief and one of his sergeants attended last Friday. There's manager and supervisory training, and it's also to be offered to our staff here at the municipal building. We have yet to set that date. It's harassment training. And then we're also, the JIF provides a model personnel policy and gives us updates every 2 years with laws that have changed and the like. So I have that prepared. I would like to send it out. I know I worked with Ms. Santucci the last time around and Mr. Olson. So they were my subcommittee for personnel matters. I don't know, I'm still going to work with Ms. Santucci and Ms. Vicky maybe, or
That's fine.
Fine with me?
Sure.
Sure.
is that okay?
Yep.
I'll just send you the red line version of the changes that were recommended. It's basically just that. There's no other, the last time we met, we had a long laundry list of suggestions. I'm not bringing that to you this time. We can certainly go into some of that if we like, but there's a specific number that they're suggesting we can go ahead and change, and they're fairly simple. So I'll send that to you to review. You can look at it. If you have a question, we can meet and go over it all. And then it has to be completed, any changes, by October 1st. So we have.
I think we can definitely meet that deadline, Judy.
Okay, so hope to send that out to you before the end of the week, so you can give it a look. But we're not, we have time.
Good.
Okay? Also in your mailboxes, you'll see a copy of the 2017 audit that just came from the auditor. As a township committee, you're asked to review the comments from the auditor that are listed on the last page. You're also invited to read through it at your leisure. At the next meeting, we will have a resolution with an affidavit that must be signed stating by each of you that you did read the comments page, and we have to then notice it in the paper. So you have time, but the next meeting will have that prepared for you. And lastly, just to add, the mayor was talking about Clarence Dillon. I got a call today from the administrator in Peapack Gladstone asking questions about Clarence Dillon Library. He's having some meetings on his end, but he would like to reach out to Clarence Dillon Library about potential joining that group. So.
Well, that would be
I told him the door is open and come talk to us.
That would be an amazing shared service. It's very, the structure of the funding for that is very cut and dry, in that they get a millage based upon ratables. So as our ratables go down, Sandy's budget goes down, and as it goes up.
They are currently part of the Somerset County system, and there are certain requirements now being put to them that they're not ready to manage. So they're looking for other options, and we may be that option.
Well, the way you're enabled to get savings out of that is if your library is funded 25% over what its normal funding would be, so 125% of their budget, then that overage, anything over that overage can be considered savings. Ran the numbers a couple of years ago on that. If Peapack Gladstone were to come in, it might potentially yield that amount that would allow for some savings, because it's not like you're going to build a new wing on Clarence Dillon, and Clarence Dillon has certainly done an excellent job of reinventing itself as not just a library but a community center for both, and the relationship between Bedminster Township and Far Hills has been excellent as far as how the trustees and how we've shared that library. And I've mentioned it to folks up the road in Peapack several times before that they'd be welcome with open arms. They are closer in Peapack Gladstone than many of our residents, especially the ones out in Pottersville, to that library. So it's not like it's inconvenient. The only issue is that it would probably not benefit to maintain the branch that they'd have over there. In other words, you probably couldn't save money by keeping the branch open in Peapack Gladstone, but we'll see. Certainly, it's worth asking the question. Anytime there's an opportunity for shared service, it's worth checking it out.
Sandy, I was going to send him an email. I don't have much information, but
I can do that. He has been apprised of it in the past, and I'll tell him there might be another rumble. But I think the residents of Peapack Gladstone would get a tremendous service, and they might save a few dollars in the pit. So that would be wonderful.
that's all I got.
Terrific. Introduction of ordinances. We do have an ordinance to introduce tonight, and that would be ordinance 2018-010 that Judy mentioned before. An ordinance to address the requirement of the Fair Housing Act and the Uniform Housing Affordability Controls, UHAC, regarding compliance with Bedminster Township's affordable housing obligation. This ordinance amends the township's land use ordinance in compliance with the township's affordable housing obligations per requirements of the Fair Share Housing Act and Uniform Housing Affordability Controls. Public hearing for this ordinance is scheduled for August the 7th, 7 p.m. in these chambers. Any comments or questions before we entertain a motion to introduce?
Well, I see what Frank meant by that. It wasn't a,
It's red, white, blue.
It wasn't necessarily a, doing the comparison version might not necessarily be so helpful since it's a restructuring of the agreement rather than just a few word changes. So we've got a whole lot of cross-out and insertions from last time. So now we know what Frank meant.
The holiday project, Larry.
Right.
All right.
And thank you, Mr. Stevenson, for assisting in that redlining and blue lining project.
My pleasure. Red line and blue line. Any other comments or questions?
Just as you read through that, the green is just a straight replacement, so it's really the blue and the red that you focus in on. Green just means it's the same text in a different place.
I shouldn't have printed out on a black and white. All right, I'll take a motion to introduce.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public hearing on ordinances, we have none. We do have 4 items on the consent agenda. Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolutions, we have none. Bill list, I'll take a motion to approve the bill list pending the approval of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye. Discussion items. The Hills Village North Master Association meeting update. Doug, do you have anything else on that?
No.
Okay, I wasn't sure. You had a lot before. I mean, no, I thought you covered it quite well, so great. New business. Is there any new business that has not?
You know, just want to follow up on something that we mentioned last time, because I don't see it under old business, but it's the garbage hauling issue. And just a quick follow-up from our discussion from the last time, I've heard from a number of residents, and even maybe some folks on this dais, who have taken heed of the alarm that was sent out by Jim Alexander and that we discussed up here, and I know that Jim reached out to Burnsville News, and folks have been questioning their garbage haulers and making new deals and switching, and in doing so, saving hundreds of dollars for each resident. So, you know, we did it as a public service by talking about it up here, and Jake, we're really glad that the Burnsville News picked it up and ran with it. You know, it's a great service to our residents, and if there's anyone up here who wants to give a testimonial, Doug Stevenson, now would be a great time to do so.
Bueller?
Hold on one second there.
Garbage.
Garbage. Garbage.
You don't have to, Doug.
Well, no, I think I said it last meeting. So I reached out for my caller, and they were coming once a week for a little under $60 a quarter. And I reached out for a competitor who comes twice a week for $34 a month. So, no, I'm sorry, $170 a quarter, which is $60 a month, excuse me. And the price is up and down, but using round numbers, it was $60 a month for one pickup through the first carrier, and I called more of a local shop, and it was half the price for double the service. So
Or double your garbage bag.
It was a no-brainer for us, and we switched over. But then when I called back the first carrier, the nationwide carrier, they said, "Oh, well, can we match that price and keep your business?" As if it was not an issue at all to charge me that. So of course, my response was, "You've been stealing from me for the last 10 years." So no, I mean, I encourage everyone to check their quality rates. Apparently, it's a wild, wild west out there as to what you can get charged, and same service for different residences will charge you different amounts. So be diligent.
We've been
check
getting
your,
emails. I got some emails. Steve got some emails. So it's good information out there.
Yeah, no, sounds like people have been paying attention, which is good.
Except for me on Larry's lead call.
All right, old business, short-term rentals. I think Jake's paper had a little story about that this week. Anything new on that other than the court case?
The court case has been finalized. I guess I can speak to what the outcome was. The prosecutor came to speak with me after the court case. The property that was the Airbnb did plead guilty, and they were told that if they wished to continue, which they said they did not, but if they wished to continue, they would have to come for a use variance before the land use board, and they had to submit an application. So they said if they did decide to do that, they would do so when they had their attorney.
So that was a complaint-driven matter, correct?
Correct.
Now, to the extent that there are other short-term rentals going on in town, is that something that our inspector would act on
So
his
as we're
own, or would it be,
notified-
once again, complaint-driven?
So as we hear about them, or we search them on the internet and find them, usually letters are sent to the owners letting them know what the rules are. So, as we find them, where they're reported, we try and take action. And if we can see it, then we can do a complaint ourselves.
So just as simple as going to Airbnb or VRBO or any other of the short-term rental sites. And John, have there been challenges? I know there was a discussion about a challenge in the case that was just settled. You're aware that the short-term rental ordinances are being upheld?
I haven't heard any challenges to those ordinances, and I certainly haven't seen any unpublished decisions, and I review Daily Alert every day, so if something was out there, I certainly would have said, here's an Airbnb case, but I look at them every day. There's been no even unpublished decisions on that.
Oh, let me jump in on that. One other issue that I hit on the...
You had one other issue?
The Hills Master North meeting, I did raise the issue of Airbnb and short-term rentals with them. And not an issue there, because it's a violation of their bylaws, and you're not permitted to have a lease for less than a year up there, so it would never happen.
What's interesting on that note is that we had a conversation unofficially with someone of Hills Village Master, and they said up there too, it's a violation of the condominium bylaws, but they said that they were averse to taking action and challenging.
It might have been a different association, I think.
No, it was a different association.
Yeah,
It was about North, I'm talking
Yes.
about Master.
Yes.
I'm talking about Village.
The Hills Village.
And so it may be worth, Renee, maybe reaching out to your friends.
Well, we've had conversations at the Master Association level. and it comes back to it's against our bylaws. I don't know that we'll have like a committee who's going to look for it, but I'm sure if it comes up, they'll get a letter, but I will bring it back and say it's a concern. Let me see, I'll get something substantial.
Okay.
And I know Tom Anderson is still looking into the western part of town and but how many there might be rentals that are not necessarily registered for the purpose of us fire code inspections. But I guess what we need to look at here is our old business of short-term rentals. I think we need to look and figure out, did the complaint and the court case run its course, and did we determine that our ordinances are adequate, or do we really need to continue any further investigating different regulations of those? So,
Can it be both? I mean, from what we hear, the court case went down, they went in, they pled guilty, and it was over, and it's not going to happen anymore. That being said, this is an evolving area of commerce, and we should be on top of it. We should be looking at it to see what, if anything, we need to tweak. But to me, the court case, technically did what it was supposed to do in the sense of got an agreement from the homeowner to not do it. But that's a question I think, goes beyond right here, right now, and is it something that we want to regulate? Is it something that, is it a problem that requires us to get involved at this level? Maybe, maybe not, but certainly we should be looking at the statutes in this area as we evolve over the months to see where the trend is going and what are people doing. I would suggest that we probably want to have someone in, whether it's Mr. Price or someone else, regularly just pop on and see what's available in town, just so you sort of realize who's doing what.
Also, are you saying the same units consistently as opposed to someone who might have a month or a couple weeks that they're away, they can earn some extra income? Once again, talking about the policy level, how deep do we want to get into this, as opposed to, once again, and I use the example of, is it a one-off because someone's away for a couple weeks and they can rent out their condominium or a room, versus, and what we've also heard from some of the condo associations are those condominiums that have been purchased and are being operated sort of like a hotel.
And like a business. It becomes a business, which then creates another
Airbnb
issue.
for that one unit.
Yeah, and a zoning issue as well.
Right. Well, I know that there's a home up on Okura that is on there fairly regularly. So, to your point, I think that is going on. And is that something that needs to be addressed?
well, we'll have the U.S. Open in a couple of years, so there may be potentials for short-term rentals on that. Who knows, if the Essex Horse Trials gets bigger, there may be some folks that decide they want to rent a facility for that. So, I guess there's still opportunity out there to keep investigating. So I hope we keep it on the radar somewhat.
I would say keep that under old business so that we come back to it, and don't forget that it's not just it was not just the issue on Cedar Ridge, but it's a policy issue that we have to address.
Right.
All right. Engine braking. Anything that we haven't discussed yet? Other than your visit to DOT?
The only other update was DOT requested from us an understanding of the grading between roughly Ski Hill down the corridor into Lamington. Asked Paul Ferraro, he looked at it, it's about a 2% max downgrade. Most of it is about 1.5%, so it is not a significant grade. So we provide that information back to DOT. Let's see if they do anything with it. But that was one of the requests they had to us.
Okay. Interchange improvements, 287, C8, 202, 206. In fact,
Excuse me, I think the chief also had some...
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Research on this, and I don't have a full package to report, but I can say through my research about 8 years ago, Ewing Township Police Department and a couple of their code enforcement officers went through a program at Rutgers, and I spoke to the chief, current sitting chief in Ewing. I said, how's that going? He said, it's not. He said, you know, we got a good idea on face value, he said, but it just, you know, started, didn't really work, so they discontinued the use of the monitors. I did a little research, and the state, the university right here in Middlesex County has a program. It's a 3-day school where you could go there and you could learn how to calibrate this meter. Meters run about $850. It's another $200 a year to have it calibrated. And then you need a wind meter. In my research, if the wind is over 12 miles per hour, you can't use it. You also have to be in such proximity where you almost have to be exactly where this thing is gonna, you know, reach that decibel. So I still need to drill down on the actual decibels and if it's enforceable under, you know, the noise ordinances through the state, which the municipality would have to adopt their own, or through Title 39 dealing with mufflers that Mr. Stevenson just relayed to me. The training class, like I said, was 3 days. It's $425 per person to go to. So, and then every 2 years you'd have to go to a research class, and that's $215. I mean, it looks like it could be pretty expensive because you just can't have one person that does this.
It's the pathway that we have. I mean, according to what we learned at DOT, this is it. I mean, you've got the statute that says 80 decibels, but the key is how do you then enforce? And this is how you enforce it, but it's unless you're at the spot where the engine braking is occurring, it's not gonna be effective. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. Do you want to be a deterrent, or do we want to, you know, issue summonses and tickets that are going to stick in a court of law? I mean, you're not going to have the latter unless you're at the right place at the right time and in the right conditions. Other than that, it seems like it's all defensible, but then there's still the deterrent side. And, you know, do you want it in the corridors that we know, 287, 78, 206, in those corridors? Do we want to invest in the time, effort, and energy to police this? I mean, it's more of a policy issue, but to get something that sticks sounds like it's going to be difficult.
So, in lieu of police enforcement, what's the other, I mean, I know, Doug, you and Colin reported on DOT's position on deterrent opportunities, and they were essentially against those.
Yes.
Why not temporary signage, just to start?
Right.
I mean, I know they had issues about sight lines, and we would respect those, but, you know, taking out that portable sign and putting it out there on Lamington Road or somewhere in Ski Hill area, and just lighting it up, and seeing if it has any impact. I mean, there is a noise ordinance on the books. I understand we can't measure it, but at least we could start to remind folks that, hey, you're in a residential neighborhood.
No, I agree. We have to try something, and it's within our control to do it. It's not going to be costly. We already have the equipment, so.
And Doug, when Hills North, was there complaint driven from 287 or from Robertson?
287.
287?
Yeah. Yeah.
That we
it's
can't.
That
we can't put a sign.
The exit, you know, the exit.
Yeah.
Right.
Jug turn there, and they're just down braking through there, and of course that's where the start of all the residential is.
Well, you know, it's interesting that there's not yet a viable technological solution for this along the lines of people don't like red light cameras, but red light cameras. You know, the whole idea is you've got to have manpower at a given place. They've got to be there at the right time when something's. Put a little robot, sit there, click picture. You know, it's funny because 10, 15 years ago, when I used to fly out of Germany, the Germans were very particular about jet noise. And there were certain procedures that we would have to fly to leave Frankfurt Airport. And if you didn't fly that precise path, you would set off noise sensors throughout the city or the countryside, wherever we were flying. And we could go out in the morning, go down to Afghanistan or Iraq and fly back later that night, and the ops officer would have a little sign on the wall with a little drawing done mechanically and say, Parker, you took off at X time here's your path. Oh, you got a little close to one of those noise sensors. And it's amazing that was all set up for that. Now that's, I'm sure, much more expensive regionally, but a little set of mechanical ears and a little, anyway. So, yeah, it's too bad there's not a little mechanical device that at a certain decibel level would just trigger, take a picture. Yeah, okay.
Right, like using fast technology.
Yeah.
But, in lieu of that, the way Jake brakes work, it's by default, when you take your foot off the gas, basically the Jake brake engages. But the trucker has the option of just flipping the switch and turning it off. And maybe that sign is just all it's just a reminder, you're in a residential neighborhood, be respectful.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all it is, given the fact that we can't do anything else at this point in time.
Yeah. No, temporary signage can't always be on the farmer's market. We'll have to put that up a couple days out of the week. But it wouldn't hurt a couple days.
June through September.
There you go. Maybe the winter.
Really, when the Jake braking really becomes a problem is when the trees lose their leaves after the farmer's market.
I can understand that. Anyway, that's.
So if anyone really does want to talk about the farmer's market.
Well, it's not on my comment sheet.
Comments are coming.
But you're welcome to.
Relax, they're coming.
All right. Well, thanks, Chief. Thanks for doing that research. Interchange, 287, 78, 202, 206. I did just get a semi-anonymous email earlier this week asking about that. I wish they never sent me back who they were or where they were from. I would have liked to have told them I was going to be happy to chat with them.
Well, Mayor, I've been following up on that with Meredith from DOT. You asked Mr. Stevenson and I to bring that up at our original meeting. It was the issue of the longitudinal joints, which for whatever that means, look, just get the thing paved. Went back to Meredith today and said, what's current status? She responded back, I talked to the project manager, and the contractor has not yet provided a date for the paving. They're very responsive, but the fact of the matter is we've got a bunch of non-answers. So we really need an answer, date certain on when that's going to be completed. Because clearly it's been in the current condition for over 3 months. It's a safety issue because there's a stop sign now at the end of the exit ramp. It needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
So I'll continue to, run down with Meredith where that stands and see if we can't make any progress.
Yeah. Nope. Thanks for doing that.
That's great.
Public comments. Second and the last time, we open up that microphone again to any member of the public that wishes to be heard on any subject we've covered or not covered this evening. Please state your name and your address for the audio recording portion of the recording.
20 Crestmont Road. You stole my thunder, Mayor. I wanted to say thank you to everybody for the Essex Horse Trials. I got the opportunity on Sunday to volunteer there, and it was a great day. The riders are amazing, the horses are amazing. There were a lot of vendors. They seem to be doing pretty well. I saw a bunch of people from town. It was a lot of fun, so it's really exciting to live in this area where people get together and do some really fun things.
Now, did you get the urge to do show jumping again yourself, or are you just
Every day.
All right, I wasn't sure.
Those are gorgeous. I got to see the horse trials, how old am I? Probably 20 years ago when it was out by Hamilton Farms, and it's an amazing sport. These horses with these little tiny ballerina ankles are doing these huge jumps and fancy footwork, and we are just sitting on top of them, and well, these kids make it look so easy. But it is a beautiful thing to watch, and everybody needs to go out and look. And I hope next year we get more people to go. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Also, Mayor, what you talk about with Renee's participation is folks that were working there primarily were volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And, Mayor, you talked about this at the Memorial Day event and elsewhere. The volunteerism we have in town, just walking through, I wasn't there the day you were there, but I did see Renee on Sunday, and just walking around, Joe Metelsky, Mayor Metelsky was volunteering. Bob Holtaway was there. I saw about 3 or 4 other Bedminster residents.
Paul Spitaleri, most of the Rubin family.
Yeah, the whole Rubin family.
That were taking their time, and a lot of these folks are not necessarily horse people, but they like volunteering and participation, and it really is a credit to what we have here in town. And Renee is an example of that. So thanks for volunteering, Renee.
You're welcome. I will do it both days next year.
All right. Any other public comments? All right, we'll go to we'll go to Township Committee comments, and we do have an executive session which should not produce any actions after. We'll start with Mr. Stevenson.
Just wanted to say, thanks, John. I was oblivious. I thought these were pictures that I brought for my meeting, but I see that these were pictures of what you did today. Thank you for that, and appreciate the field trip.
Actually, they came from
The
Chief
chief
Rock.
took
Oh, thank you, Chief.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mayor, no comments, thank you.
Larry?
Farmers Market is Saturday. just
Is there
in case you guys were,
is there a farmer's market
just in
this
case any of
weekend?
you guys
I
were
wanna make
wondering,
sure.
there will be a farmer's market on Monday. Good to see, Chief, good to see you here at the market. It's good.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Jake, you can say thank you to Charlie for dropping by at the market.
We went.
We could see you there. John, our attorney, was there. That's
Stacy?
Pottersville Fire Department Antique Show is coming up.
All right,
So
good
it's
one.
not the next week, but it's the, I want to say 26th, 27th, 28th, or 25th,
Yeah.
26th, that weekend. So peaches, roast beef, ham.
What are the dates again?
I'm looking for the specific dates, but not this upcoming weekend, so in 2 weeks. I
Here, let me
believe the
see.
mayor's
We'll
on it.
find out here.
So,
Isn't it you? Okay.
The 20th?
Thursday, Friday,
Let me get my calendar,
if you can get your
my
calendar
monthly
there.
calendar.
Tomorrow's the 4th.
It's in the 26th, so
come
it's
on, it's
either
not in
25,
calendar mode.
26.
July,
Yes.
27, 28, 29 is Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
There you go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is that it?
Mayor, isn't
No,
it
it's
start
Thursday,
Thursday?
Friday,
Friday, Saturday.
27, 28.
I'll show up and I'll be
Yes.
cleaning up.
So 26, 27, 28, it's great.
So it was last week.
You have to come out and eat some ham, some roast beef, and
That's a
some
great
turkey.
event.
Yep.
That's a fun event.
So that Saturday, after the farmer's market, you go
Yeah.
for that.
We're all
Yeah,
gonna
they're
be-
lunch.
we're all gonna be like 30,000 pounds by the time we get done with that.
The ham dinner, the turkey dinner,
Yes.
the roast beef dinner,
Yes.
and the peaches.
6 degrees to Kevin Bacon has been replaced with 6 degrees to the farmer's market.
There you go. And I will close things by thanking the chief again for his folks Saturday. We had a lot of visitors in town that congregated around the Clarence Dillon Public Library, and from what I understand, there weren't any headlines other than there was a lot of people, and they were peaceful, and the police handled them well. So thank you for keeping the peace. And your folks. And with that, we will, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So
So
moved.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you in the back in just a few. Thank you.
So Ed didn't reach out, so like, here. So, see a little pad in there? Here?
Yeah, the whole thing is great.
Thank you.
Can I operate the senior van?
You don't need a special license to do the senior van.
Awesome.
I want to do pickups to Pluckerman Village.
Yeah. No, you don't need a passenger endorsement for under 15 passengers, and ours only holds 14.
But wouldn't he have to be insured?
Let's do it.
He's an employee.
There you go.
And if you get a volunteer.
By the way, your
Is that air conditioning?
your summer's at the beach. They just ended.
Yeah, you told Susan this?
He's volunteering.
I think it's a great.
Can we turn ourselves
Yes,
back on?
Yes, we are.
Oh, we're on. Bonus. All right, it is 8:57 and we're out of executive session. We have no further business tonight. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before 9.
Have
Good
fun.
night.
Hey, bring back the lobster, would you?
Happy 4th of July, everybody.
Night.
You
Happy
too.
Lobster Day.
Lobster day.
He's going to Maine.
Does anybody